So welcome back to Exploring the Vines. Today we're at Track 7 Brewing, and we're here with Geoff. Geoff is the brewer, and
I am brewer and co-owner with Ryan Graham.
okay. So Geoff and Ryan are the owners of the business, and we are lucky enough to catch one of them because it is such a happening and busy business. We caught them for a few minutes to find some history about Track 7, how it all began. So why don't you give us some insight about how it all came together?
Okay, so Ryan and I met back in UC Davis probably in 2000, 2001 in undergrad school. We became good friends. We worked at Big Five together, and then we went our separate ways. He moved back down to Southern California, and I stayed local in Sacramento. We both independently kind of started home brewing on our own, making beer, probably for about 6 years before we opened Track 7. Homebrewed a lot. We would drive up and down the state to each other's house and have beer parties. I'd drive kegs down, he'd drive kegs up. And then one night after one of our parties, we both were a little intoxicated and decided to open a brewery. So here we are at Track 7.
So that's how it all came to be, just a little extra beer, and that pushed you over the edge.
Pushed us over the edge, yes.
So you went to UC Davis. Were you studying? Nothing to do with beer at that time?
No, Ryan was a political science major and I was managerial economics.
Wow. So that's incredible. So so you opened here in what year, I'm sorry?
December 31st, 2011. So we just celebrated our 4th year anniversary.
Wow, that's great. And this is, you have one facility here in Curtis Park, and then you have another in Natomas, is that right?
Yes, we opened our Natomas facility in February of this year.
Great.
And I see, Geoff, you've got some barrels behind us. Want to tell us a little story, exactly what you got and what program you have?
Yeah, so right now we have 4 different beers in barrels. We have our sour blonde that we pitched with a sour blend yeast with some Brettanomyces in it. We have a barley wine here that was supposed to be an ESB, but the grain was milled incorrectly. So we ended up with about a 9% beer instead of about a 5.5% beer. So we decided to barrel age it. Back on that side, we have a Russian Imperial Stout and our annual batch of Unrelenting, which is a Imperial Belgian chocolate stout.
So is this something that is just, do all brewers do the barrels, or you just particularly have a little interest in it, or what's the...
We love barrels. It adds a whole nother complexity to your brewing experience. One thing with opening Natomas is that's our main production facility now. We brew our 4 to 5 core beers out of there, which opened up our Curtis Park facility to doing more one-offs and experimental beers, and it has allowed us to start barrel aging beers.
Great. And I say this has got to be a cold room, obviously.
Yeah,
correct, right?
This is our largest cold room at Curtis Park. It holds all of our overflow from the tap room.
Great. Can we take a look inside?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go.
So we're inside the cold room now, and so Geoff, kind of tour us around, let us know what you got going in here.
Okay, so right here we have some TCHO cacao nibs. We use a lot of those in a couple of our stouts, so we go through those pretty quick. And then we get into our hops. We got Simcoe, Amarillo, Centennial, Mosaic, Chinook. Basically most of the things you can think of we have here. And then as you go around, you can see our draft supply behind you. We do 22-ounce bottles of 4 to 5 of our products. We have 3 sets of cans, our Slow Roll, our Panic IPA, and our Beeline Blonde. And then as you continue to go around, we have 3 pallets of 22s back there. That's our Unrelenting. It's 3 years, different vintages. So we have our 2nd anniversary, our 2014, and our 2015 versions of the same beer. And then we get over here, these kegs in the back that say bread on them. That's our Bruxy Lady. It was one of our first barrel-aged beers that we did with Brettanomyces, and then along the wall are more barrel-aged beers.
So you actually have a history inside. I mean, this is like there's 4 or 5 years of work right here in this room.
Yeah, with the Unrelenting, and then the Bruxy Lady's been in here for a little over a year. So, and then some of the barrel-aged stuff we have from 2013 as well.
Yeah. So it's like a history museum right here inside this cool room, but yet it all still tastes good. That's the best part. Okay, so let's head on out since I'm freezing now, and we'll find out what else is going on.
Hey, Geoff, I have a question for you. So as far as hops go, I know that there's almost like a critical point where it's getting harder and harder for you to get your hops and stuff, and you have to do a contract with these guys, the farmers and stuff. How does that all work?
Yeah, absolutely. the supply and demand is really out of whack right now. There's way more demand than there is supply. The farmers are growing as much as they can, as fast as they can. The harvest season's literally a month long, and they work 24 hours a day during that month to 2 months to get everything processed in time. Right now, we're contracted through, I think, 2017, 2018. So we contract 2 to 3 years out in the future. So we have to project our growth and our sales for that time, and then go back into the amount of hops that we want. And then hopefully the same beers are still popular at that point in time, and the same hops are still popular, because you can contract for 20, 30,000 pounds of hops, and then 2-3 years later, no one may like that hop, and then you're kind of stuck with it on contract.
Oh, God. And so the IPAs, which are obviously you're using, is it a stronger hop, or is it just the amount of hop? Exactly how does that work too? How's that work?
So IPAs generally have more hops in them. The bitterness is generally higher than, say, your standard malty, like English wine, or not English wine, but like your ESB, or say your blonde or your ambers. Right now, the most popular hops are Mosaic, Citra, Simcoe. They're very fragrant, very fruity, very tropical, really like punch in the face aroma, and that's what's popular right now.
Okay.
So are there hop purveyors that you buy from, or are there actually hop farms that you go to? How does that part work?
Well, right now we're not large enough to buy directly from the farmer, so we go through a couple different hop brokers. With our growth, hopefully next year we'll be able to possibly bypass our broker and go directly to one of the larger farms who are open. You have to hit a certain amount of barrelage before you can start dealing with them.
Now we're inside the brew room. Is this what you would, our brew house? What do you actually call this area?
So this is our production facility, our production area. So behind me we have our brew house. It's our original brew house. It's a 7-barrel system. Behind me is our hot liquor tank. Acts as a big hot water heater. We basically can control the temperature in there, get it as hot as we need. This vessel here is our boil kettle. So this is where we boil. We add our hops. We add, our coriander or orange peel, whatever we're adding to the beer during the boil. Peanut butter. This one here is our mash tun, and this is where we hand mill our grain. We hand shovel it in through the manway door, and then we pull hot water over from the hot liquor tank, mash in, get the right temperature, and then that's where the chemistry starts.
Okay, yeah. And that's a stir stick that's at the top, basically, right? That's
yeah. There's a big rake inside that spins both ways, forward and backwards, and then as we're mashing in, we run the rake and mixes it up so there's no dough balls.
Okay, all right.
How do you, before we go any further, how do you come up with a recipe? Are there set recipes that you have and then you experiment from there? Because I know you guys always are doing something new.
Yeah, when we first started, we started out with some of our homebrew recipes. Our Beeline Blonde, our Hoppy Palm, our Daylight Amber were all kind of homebrew recipes that we started with. And then just from experience, Ryan and I have just kind of pieced together recipes as we go. And then once you get to a certain level of comfortableness, it's pretty easy to make tweaks to those recipes, change hops on them, and just create different variants in beers. And there's a ton of information out there. The beer community is very friendly, very open to sharing knowledge. So if you have questions on a specific style or like a water profile or fermentation profile, there's generally a brewer out there that's willing to help you out and pass along some information to you.
Will they actually share a recipe that you would use, or is that not common that you...
They generally won't share the specific recipe as far as the weights and the volumes of hops and grain, but they're open to sharing general information on tank cleaning processes, boil times, things like that. So
okay, great.
So once you've done and you've got your mash, then where do we go to from there?
Okay, so after we mash in, we usually let it sit in here for an hour. And then we come down through this little Grant tank here, so that way our pump is not sucking directly at the bottom of the mash tun. So from there it gets pumped over to our boil kettle. So here we boil for 60 to 90 minutes depending on the beer that we're making. We add our hops, add whatever other additions we need at that point in time. And then we come down through this blue thing here. This is a heat exchanger. So we pull city water in at 60 to 70 degrees depending on the time of the year. It strips the heat off of our wort that's coming through at about 200, and then we recapture all of that water and pump it back into our hot liquor tank here to save water, save energy. And then as it comes out of the heat exchanger, we're giving it some oxygen to aerate the wort, and then we pump it over to one of our fermenters, which is in the back of the room.
And how long does it actually ferment? Is it 2 weeks, or how do you do that?
The actual fermentation process is generally 4 to 5 days for the active fermentation. After that, we generally condition it and let it sit. Generally, our beers sit for about 10 to 12 days before we crash it and knock the yeast out of it.
And how many barrels, how much are you producing this year or as of, say, 2015?
So in 2015, we will probably do just about 6,000 barrels of production out of both facilities. Our Curtis Park facility maxed out can probably do about 3,000 to 3,500 in that range, but our Natomas facility is much larger. We have a 30-barrel brew house out there compared to our 7-barrel brew house here.
Right.
And that one, with our cellar capacity right now, we could probably do about 9,000 barrels out of there.
And so what is the plan? Is the plan to produce more, or can you produce more, or how does that work?
Yeah, we plan to produce more. One of our goals is to become a regional brewery, which the threshold's 15,000 barrels produced. Right now, like I said, this year we probably did about 6,000. So maybe this year coming up or the year after, we'll be able to hit that regional status.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
So is that are there certain tiers in brewing as far as you go from the boutique in wineries? It's they go from a boutique to a small to a medium size. Is that the same way in beer?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. There's nano breweries, there's micro breweries, there's regional breweries, there's macro breweries. So
a regional brewery is one that's going to do what, 15,000 barrels, or what'd you say?
yeah, 15,000 plus.
Okay.
That's a lot of beer.
It is quite a bit.
You would have to. It would be a long weekend for you to do.
It'd be a great weekend for me.
I wouldn't remember any of it, though.
I usually don't remember any of that anyhow. But will you show us down the road down here what you got? Okay, real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, Geoff. Now, what are we looking at right here? What's
So
happening
these two
here?
tanks are our original 7-barrel fermenters. We originally started with 3 of them with a 7-barrel bright tank. We've since expanded, but we kept 2 of the 7s for fun experimental stuff.
Okay.
This right here is an Imperial coffee porter that we brewed on Friday. As you can see, it's fermenting away. So as the yeast is eating the sugars, it creates the krausen, and the krausen has spilled out through the CIP arm into our blow-off bucket. And we put the blow-off buckets down here. One, they generally fill with sanitizer, so that way nothing can go back up into the tank. Mm-hmm. And then it also acts as a catch, so we don't make a lot of mess on our floor that we have to clean up later.
And when you pitch the yeast that you guys use, is it just experimental? I know, is it liquid? Is it?
Yeah, we use a liquid yeast. It's the Cal-Ale yeast, and then we generally repitch it for 4 to 5 generations.
Oh, really? So you can reuse it?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
some breweries use it 14, 15 times. We generally run 4 to 5 uses on our yeast.
Wow. Okay. All right. Great. What else do we have down here?
Yeah, so like I said, these are 2 of our original 4
Okay.
tanks, and then behind here we have another 15-barrel tank, and then 2 more 15s down this way. We currently have 5 15-barrel fermenters in our brew house at Curtis Park, and then we have 2 15-barrel bright tanks. So if you look down here, this one has a flat bottom. This is considered a bright tank.
Okay.
It's for aging the beer. We carbonate in there. We force carbonate our beer in there through a carb stone here. So we pump CO2 in there, carbonate it.
Oh, okay.
And that's how it gets its carbonation. Right here, this is a brand new tank that we put in on Friday. This is a little 10-barrel fun experimental tank. It's ASME certified, so it goes up to 2 bars in pressure, which means we can nitrogenate our beers. So we will begin nitrogenating our Soulman Stout and our Nuck and Futz Imperial Chocolate Peanut Butter Cream Porter. We just did a test batch at Altamont where we nitrogenated our Burnt Bog smoked porter down there.
All right.
And then on the back side here, this big tank in front is a 30-barrel fermenter. So we brew 4 batches over 2 days to fill that. And then back behind there's a few more 15s that you can't really see right now.
Okay, so right now everything's just sitting, but do you have anything that we can actually taste? Obviously it'd be kind of hard for me to siphon a little bit of beer off of here to start drinking, and I could give it my best shot, but what can you show us up in the front?
Yeah, we have 9 beers on tap, but I could also pull one off of one of our fermenters now that just got dry hop. So
Oh,
you
really?
can try it. Yeah.
I'd like to try that.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're going to taste test. What are we going to taste test?
This is our slow roll session IPA that was dry hopped today. We brewed it on Thursday, so it's only 4 days old right now. So you guys can try a beer that's in active fermentation that's just been dry hopped.
And Geoff, this is something new for us because we've always had to go to the tasting room able to have the beer. So this is a one of a kind for us. So
Yeah,
this should
sure
be real
is.
interesting.
All right.
So it comes out a little foamy because of the nozzle, but
Sure.
it should settle out here in a second.
Okay,
You should
all right.
be able to smell the aroma on it now if you want.
I was asking Geoff real quick why he was spraying this, and it's basically to make sure that it's all sanitized so that way nothing else can get back in and spoil the batch. Because the worst thing you want to do, as home brewers way back when, was you could spoil a batch even though it was 5 gallons. It was your work that had taken a good month to get to. So now I understand what he's doing.
Yes, and this is a big tank, so you don't want to dump 28 half barrels of kegs down the drain because you made a little mistake and didn't sanitize.
No, I would be crying right now.
It was nice that Geoff was able to pour this for me. I'm sorry you couldn't have any, Mike.
Well, actually, what I was waiting for is for the
foam to go down.
foam to go down so I could actually.
Man, that is
And then
wonderful.
You can try the actual fully carbonated finished version on draft today as well.
How sweet this is.
Yeah, that is really, really good. Okay, so we're going to go try a different
We'll
one.
try one more
Yes,
that's
okay.
been fermenting a little bit longer.
Sounds great.
And,
All right, let's go. All right. Okay, just so what are we looking at right here? What's in this tank right
this
now?
is our 30 barrel fermenter. We brewed our Beeline Blonde. We brewed it over the Monday and Tuesday. So we brewed 2 batches on Monday. We pitch yeast on Monday, and then it starts to ferment. And then come Tuesday morning, we come back in and brew 2 more batches to fill the tank up. So we're going to try our Beeline Blonde. It's a American blonde ale with some local wildflower honey in it. So you should get good notes of honey on the nose.
All right.
So are you and Ryan still doing all the brewing yourselves?
We probably brew about once a week now. We're getting pulled in so many directions as being the owners of the business that we don't have as much time as we would like to sit down and brew and do the actual work. But we have a great staff right now. We have one guy that's our longest tenured employee, Dan Rafferty. He's been here pretty much since 6 months in. He's worked very hard, busts his little booty and gets his job done, and he's great. And then we have a couple other great brewers out there that we picked up along the way.
And you have a recipe, that's what they do, and then you and Ryan go back and taste test to make sure everything's staying consistent?
Yeah, we generally have recipes. We've let the brewers create a few recipes of their own so far. But Ryan will review them, make sure that it has a good sound basis to it, and then at that point they'll go forward and brew it. But most of our recipes we've brewed, our Panic IPA we probably brewed close to 300 times. Some other beers are in the hundreds. So the recipes are pretty standard. Once you get it dialed in, it's pretty easy to follow.
And obviously you don't want to change it because then your people that are on the public is tasting something different. It's got to stay the same. Is that right?
Yeah, getting into the commercial brewing side of things, consistency is very key. Home brewing, you can play around a little more, experiment a little more, and have different variances between batch to batch. But on the commercial level, you have your patrons that have fallen in love with a certain style of beer, a certain type of beer. And then when you make a little tweak to it, they say, oh, you changed something on that. And you're like, yeah, I did. But, Brian and I one of our goals at Track 7 is to put the best beer out possible. So we're continually tweaking our beers, just changing little things here and there, whether it's fermentation temperature or mash temperature or the amount of dry hops we put in it. But the base recipe probably stays 99% the same as we tweak things.
Okay. Well, I know Christmas has already passed, and I was happy with a pair of socks. But obviously next year, I know what I'm asking for. One of these babies.
One of those right there, yeah.
All right. We'd love to go taste some of the beer in the beer tasting room. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
We
let's
got
go.
9
All
beers
right.
for you to try.
All right, let's go.
Awesome.
All right, we're in the pouring room right now. And Geoff, what do you have for us right now?
So right here is our Panic IPA. It is our flagship beer. It's the 7% IPA. Sorry about that. At about 70 IBU.
That's incredible. That's an incredible IPA.
Why don't you hold this while I'm tasting here real quick? I can get both hands on it.
I noticed the Track 70, and you've got throughout the place
Very
you have
nice,
different
very
pieces of artwork from that people have done for you. Do people contribute? Do you solicit?
We have a lot of local great artists that have helped us along the way. So our friend Renee does Sacramento Art Glass. He's built our tables here. He built our bar here. He's a glass blower by trade, so he built our tip jar. And then we hold second Saturday events here once a month. So we have artists come out, and then at that point we build connections with them, and they have lent us some paintings and some artwork along the way. So very fortunate that they're as giving and as kind as they are.
So when they do second Saturday downtown, you guys participate at that same time? Or?
Yes, we do. We usually have a little a show in the back room back there where the barrels are, and then we have the artists come out. We usually have some live music, the food truck out front. So it's a good time.
Wow, that's a great, I mean, you do a lot for the community, don't you? I mean, how many events, beer events, that sort of thing do you do a year?
If you count second Saturdays and you count like our anniversary parties and our Tracktoberfest, we probably have about 16 to 17 on-site events, but we participate in countless charity donations, off-site beer festivals, things like that. So,
wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. It's busy, but it's a lot of fun.
And so you and Ryan you're spending a lot of time with the public now, not just brewing beer anymore.
Yeah, we're definitely, this year we're focusing on being out there, being involved more with the public and putting our face out there as the owners and brewers of Track 7 and just trying to really promote our brand.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, this is the IPA. I have to tell you, when we announced that, as we went throughout the week getting ready to produce this segment, and we announced that we were going to go to Track 7, everybody was so happy that we were going to be there. And
that's good.
You have a huge support in the community.
Yeah, I mean, ever since we opened, we had a line of 40 to 50 people at the door as soon as we rolled up the door, and the community of Sacramento and the outside area, Northern California, has just embraced us with open arms, and we can't thank them enough for all the support and kind words they give us. So cheers to Sacramento.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we appreciate your time. I know you have to...
Yeah, I got to get some work done in the back, so I'm going to hand you off to Connor here, one of our most decorated taproom employees, servers. He's been here a very long time.
Nice to meet you. I'm Randy, and this is Mike.
Hi, Mike. My pleasure.
And he'll walk you through our little flight of tasters we have poured for you here, so good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoff.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Tell Ryan next time we'll have to get him in here too.
Absolutely.
All right. Show us what you got. What are the 4 brews that you've pulled for us for today?
Sure. So this is our standard flight. It's about $11, and you get to keep the 1 glass. But for the purpose of the tasting, we have the 4 beers poured out. So we'll just go light to dark. So this is our 4th anniversary Pilsner. Our anniversary every year is on New Year's Eve. And so we just celebrated our 4th year, and Ryan decided and Geoff, they decided to do a Pilsner, but it's a hop-forward Pilsner. So it's kind of cool because you get the classic kind of flavors from a Pilsner. It's light, very crisp, but with the hops in it, you get a little more bold flavor, a little bigger as well at 5.9%. So again, that was for our 4th anniversary.
Oh, wow. I'm anxious to see what Mike thinks. That is, for a Pilsner, that is incredible.
I like a hoppy Pilsner because sometimes the style can be a little bland. So when you have a little more hops in it,
Nice and full. That's really nice. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a full body.
Very much.
That's very nice. I really like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mic you.
I know that, but that's why I was kind of going over here, but it's all good. No, I really like this. This is very nice, you know. Sorry.
Now, is this back in the walk-in over there, we saw the 2nd anniversary, the 3rd, they're all Pilsners, right?
No, not all Pilsners. So last year's anniversary, we did a peanut butter porter, and the year before that, we did a Imperial Belgian Stout. So far, they've liked to switch it up every year, which is kind of fun. So it just keeps it fresh every New Year's.
Well, I could just be satisfied with this right here, but I see we have 3 more in front of us.
Let's keep it going.
There's 2 on your side and 2 closer towards me, so it should be the indication of what we're going to do.
So this next one, it's our session IPA. It's called Slow Roll. A true session beer is 5% or under, and so our session IPA comes in at 4.9%. It's a cool style because with a good session beer, you sacrifice ABV, but you don't necessarily have to sacrifice flavor. And so that is a little lighter and crisper for an IPA, but you still get a really strong hop flavor as well.
Oh yeah, it's much more mellow compared to the Panic IPA, but yet it has that hoppiness that you love in an IPA.
Yeah, Panic's just a touch sweeter. Definitely a little fuller bodied. This one's a little cleaner.
Oh, it is. It is much cleaner.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like it. It's crisp
Yeah.
and it's really good. Very good. There haven't been too many beers I haven't really liked, so I'm a little bit of an expert. At least I think in my own mind I am. Yeah, this is excellent. I really like this. Really good.
All right.
All right, so third we have our Bragging Rights IPA. And this one has a little bit of a personal story behind it. It was brewed because a customer, Al, won our pint club. Throughout the year, it starts in January, and the first to drink 150 pints in the safest way possible, spread out over a couple months, gets to brew a beer on the system with Ryan. And so Al, who's been coming here for years, brewed that beer with Ryan and actually ended up becoming one of our coworkers too. So it's a triple IPA, 10.1%. Definitely does not drink like 10.1%.
Now that I have the microphone and the beer in my hand, I'm not giving it back to Randy. It made it sound like this guy actually had to sit there and drink so many beers in order to become a...
Not just in one session.
Well, I realize
Yeah.
that, but you
could do it.
I would at least try to do it. I know I
Yeah.
can do those things, At
You
least
seem like you want to take on
the.
the challenge.
Well, I would love to, A free T-shirt, whatever. I know I can do it. So yeah, I live in San Diego, so it'd be hard for me to come up and brew beer with you guys, but I'd give it a good showing. That's for sure.
We can make something happen.
Well, I'm sure. Okay, here, Randy, give this a try. Tell me what you think.
Oh wow. It's amazing how we're looking at 3 different IPAs right here, and yet completely different. You can still tell it's an IPA. It has the nose of an IPA, but it's not at all the same.
Individually, they're completely different, but they're a lot alike. But that's so
Yeah.
nice. That actually is really nice. So you can
Yeah.
separate them,
It's kind of cool with the IPAs you guys just drank, going maybe through the last 5-10 years in California. Panic is a West Coast IPA, and so that's kind of the standard with a lot of breweries.
Correct.
And then you started to see a trend towards bigger, higher alcoholic, imperial, double, triple IPAs,
Right.
which you guys just had. And then recently, over the last couple of years, the market has kind of shifted back towards lower alcohol IPAs, like you just had with the slow roll. So it's kind of cool now when you go to brewers, you get kind of a whole range and variation of different IPAs.
Right. Huh, that's
So
interesting.
the slow roll, which is this right here. What was the alcohol content on that?
Slow roll is 4.9,
Okay.
and then Panic is 7, and then the Bragging Rights is 10.1.
Okay, 10.1.
So there's been IPAs have been over 11%, so it can be a range of about 7% from the different IPAs.
7 to 11.
4 to 11.
Oh, 4 to 11.
4 to 11,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That is a huge
Yeah.
difference.
All right. So I guess, Mike, you get to try one more?
Yes, that's my turn again.
Keep these over here, okay?
Yes. It's,
So
the man
this-
with the mic gets the first sip. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So this is our Burnt Fog. It's our smoked porter. It's my personal favorite beer. I'm partial to darker beers, and so you get a nice dark roasted flavor, a little chocolatey. And this is special for us because it's our first nitro version.
Okay.
And so with the nitro, instead of the CO2 dispensing out the beer, you get a little creamier mouthfeel, a little thicker body, accentuates the darker flavors a little bit.
Do you guys use coffee at all on these things, or no? Is coffee involved with this?
We
or?
not with this beer. We have used a local roaster for
Okay, all right.
some of our other darker beers, like our Solomon Stout, but not that particular one.
Okay, I'm going to let Randy hold the mic while I actually hold on to this beer here. Smooth like velvet. I'm telling you, this is really, really good. This is great. And the alcohol percentage on this is?
7.3.
I could live with that. That'd be acceptable, It'd be working for me, but try this, Randy. It really is great.
Brewing with.
You get the coffee before you even.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wow, that is really. That's
Yeah, it would be my favorite as well. I mean, it's so the finer the bubbles, it's so smooth. It's unreal. It's very, very nice.
Brewing with smoked malt can be kind of difficult because a little smoked malt goes a long way. Kind of like brewing with chilies in a beer.
You have to be careful.
Exactly. Very easy to overdo it, but Ryan and Geoff and the guys did a nice job making it nice and balanced.
So,
go ahead.
oh, I was just going to. So, do they rely on you basically as well to go? What do you think? Do you think it needs a little more of this, a little less of that, or do you get that opportunity to be able to present your?
They definitely don't give us that much leeway in deciding the beer, but as bartenders, we definitely have an element of quality control
Good deal.
to determine.
Good deal.
That'll wrap it up for this edition of Exploring the Vines. I'm Randy Aspinall.
I'm Mike Benoit.
Whether we see you in the vineyards or in the brewery, we'll see you in the tasting room.
Cheers. Yeah.